Hello and welcome to the live stream today. So, as you can see, we're talking about 9/11. I'm going to try to hold the phone steady while I talk. Actually, hold on a sec, one sec. All right, that's better. Now I can, now the phone will be steady while I talk. So, I wanted to talk about today every country in the world that had motive to do September 9/11. It's more countries than you might believe or think. And so often the media, the news media, will try to tell us something originally, and then it turns out to be a lie, right? So Monica Lewinsky came out and said that she slept with Bill Clinton. Everyone called her crazy at first. So if you were alive when this happened, and I was alive, but I was really young, when you were alive when this happened, when Monica Lewinsky came forward about the allegations about the president of the United States, people said, oh, she's crazy. It's her word versus the word of the president, right? So they were all calling Monica Lewinsky crazy. They're calling her a liar, calling her conspiracy theorist, crazy Monica Lewinsky. And then it turns out that Monica Lewinsky was telling the truth. Okay, and her allegations against Bill Clinton were right. Maybe everyone was shocked the fact that Bill Clinton, who's known for going now to the Epstein list, Epstein Island, maybe people were shocked that Bill Clinton had an affair with a woman his own age. Maybe that was what was so shocking. But the point is, Monica Lewinsky was not lying. So the official narrative of 9/11, which we all heard, right, around the world, was they blamed it on Muslims, on the Middle East, etc. They even went as far as to blame Saddam Hussein, who actually turned out to have nothing to do with it when they did a further investigation. So let's really do a deep dive into every country around the world that has motive to have wanted to do 9/11, to want to get revenge on Americans. Let's talk about every country in the world that has motive, that you could have said, hey, they have a motive. They could have been behind 9/11, right? For example, I'm not saying it was them. I'm just saying they have motive, obviously. The Japanese, after World War II, America dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan, killing millions of innocent Japanese families in World War II. If I were the Japanese, I'm not saying they did it, but I'm just saying I could see a lot of Japanese people still being pissed off about what happened after World War II. You know, there's probably Japanese people walking around being like, where's my grandfather? Where's grandfather Yamagoto, Yamasushi, whatever? Where's my grandfather? Where's grandfather-san, Yamagoto-san? Where's grandfather? And then the next thing you know, they're like, oh, right, that's right. He was killed in an explosion when America dropped 2 nukes on Japan. So they're just an example of a country that has motive that could have been behind 9/11. Although in Japan's defense, let me defend Japan for a second, because in Japan's defense, the Japanese were very known for doing like warships, navy ships, right? Navy ships, naval ships. They were known for sea combat, right? Not as much by air combat. So when the 9/11, when the planes hit the Twin Towers, oh, wait a minute, sorry. No, the Japanese were known actually especially for air combat, especially their kamikaze, especially the kamikaze airplanes. That's right. The Japanese were especially known for their kamikaze airplanes and airplane combat. So actually, that didn't really defend the Japanese too much well. But anyways, I don't think it was the Japanese, because the Japanese probably forgot all about the fact that the United States dropped 2 nukes on Japan, killing millions of innocent Japanese families in World War II. So let's move on now. Seriously, we're going to really look at all of the countries. I mean, I don't have time to go into every single country, but let's look at the ones that I can think there's a motive. Now, if you're watching If you're watching and you know of a country that I missed by accident and you actually can think of a motive that they would have to do 9/11, then please write it in the comments. Please write in the comments if there's any countries that I didn't talk about that you think that also has motive to have done 9/11. Please write it in the comments. But I'm going to talk about the main ones that we know that probably has a motive. So let's start off with my country, Canada. So can we rule out Canada for having a motive for done 9/11? No, unfortunately, we cannot rule out my country because Canada had a war with the United States. Remember the War of 1812? I'm not saying that that means they did it. I'm not saying that just because we had a war 200 years ago that that means Canada was behind 9/11. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that we're going to look at every country that has motive. Okay? Now, it's not just the war that we won, by the way. We kicked those Americans' ass. Anyways, it's not just the war that Canada won, because Canada, we all know Canada won the War of 1812. We beat those Americans. It's not just the war. It's also the last 200 years. How has the United States treated Canada the last 200 years? Let's see. When the United States did slavery, Canada was against slavery. Canada was on the side of the Africans. In fact, that Canada was helping the Africans invade the Americans. When slavery was happening and when the Africans invaded America during slavery, Canada was helping the Africans. Canada was giving the Africans weapons, in fact, and saying, hey, go invade there, go invade there, go invade there. Right? So Canada was actually helping Africa in the invasion of America during slavery. When the Africans were invading America during slavery, Canada was helping the Africans. So Canada was on the side of Africa. So, and then of course, Canada, we were being dragged into all of these wars because America, they always love going to war, and they just assume that because Canadians are white, or at least they used to be white, they just assume that because Canadians are white, or because they used to be white, that white people stick together. That Canada, the white country of Canada, was going to automatically go to the defense of the United States, right? And that's what the United States thinks. They always think that all these white countries are going to band together like Australia and Canada and Britain. Well, actually, they are in the intelligence. So the MI5, or the Five Eyes. So it's called the Five Eyes of Intelligence. So actually, all those white countries, they do work together and they share intelligence information, because there is actually, it's called Five Eyes. Five Eyes is Canada, Britain, USA, Australia, basically all the white countries, except for Russia. They're an exception. Russia is the white country that's an exception. They're not part of the Five Eyes, of spies, the Five Eyes of spies. Anyways, you get my point. So the United States, they just assumed that Canada is going to automatically go to war and defend the United States. On top of it, not only that, but then Trump threatened to take over Canada and make Canada the 51st state. Why would Donald Trump, if Canada is supposedly an ally of the United States, why would Donald Trump threaten to make Canada the 51st state and take over Canada? So we can't, basically, long story short, we cannot rule out the Canadians for having done 9/11. We really can't. Next country. Can we rule out Russia? Obviously not. Russia is obvious. I mean, after the Cold War, right? I mean, Russia's so obvious, I don't even really need to talk about it too much, because with the Cold War, Russia's obvious that they could have been behind it. So let's, like, I don't need to make an argument to why I should explain why Russia had motive. Everyone knows why Russia had motive. Germany, same thing. Germany after World War II, the Nazis, there are a lot of Nazis that survived World War II. There's still Nazis living today that survived World War II. They very well could have been up to 9/11. So, and Japan, of course, Japan with World War II, the motive was explained at the beginning. Next country that has motive that maybe people aren't expecting or thinking about too much is France. Now, especially since Candace Owens is going around and, exposing French secrets about France, which are true, which I believe to be true, it's still causing a major uproar with the French people. And France and the English, they have fought for years, the French and the English, so France definitely could have motive. Next country that could have motive to have done 9/11, the Spanish-speaking countries, all of them, pretty much. Venezuela, who had apparently has a dictator, and Pam Bondi recently issued an arrest warrant for the Mexican cartel, for the leader of the Mexican cartel. So obviously, those countries are kind of obvious as well that could have done 9/11. Next, let's go to some of the less obvious countries that could have been behind 9/11. So actually, no, Cuba. Cuba's pretty obvious, right? Because Cuba had the trade embargo with the United States. There's the Cuban Missile Crisis. Cuba could have been behind 9/11. Okay, let's pick a random country. Sweden. Sweden, those nice Swedish people. Could those nice Swedish people have done 9/11? Really? Could those nice Swedish people from Sweden, could they have done 9/11? Yeah, actually, we can't rule out the nice Swedish people because basically a lot of countries want revenge on America. There's a lot of countries that want revenge on America. And can we rule out Australia? No, we can't rule out Australia. So basically, every country in the world, almost every country, has motive to have done September 9/11. Almost every country in the world, and that's just the sad truth. Let's go to the comments. Hello, welcome. Um, Tommy's Game. Tommy's Game said, no, it was Iran because of the Persian Gulf War during the Ronald Reagan administration. Joe Snuffy came in. Joe Snuffy said, revenge for what? Being successful. Nobody is stopping. Sorry, one sec. Joe Snuffy came in and said, revenge for what? Being successful. Nobody is stopping corporations in other countries for doing the same thing. Quit being so whatever. Being successful. Well, I guess. Do you mean are you saying that America was successful when they dropped 2 nukes on Japan, when America destroyed Germany? Are you saying America was successful when they destroyed the Middle East? Do you mean successful militarily? Because then yes, the United States has definitely been successful militarily when the United States destroyed Japan, United States destroyed Germany, United States destroyed even Russia in the Cold War, United States caused the Russians to the Soviet Union to collapse in the Cold War. So the Russians have or the Americans have definitely been successful, definitely militarily for sure. Okay, let's go to Ray M's comment. He said, the West has continued these pagan traditions even after adopting Christianity and later secularism. These were merely new packaging for the same underlying mentality. Wait, but before that, he said, the Westerners deny this dark spiritual heritage and try to shift blame to other factors like capitalism or politicians. The problem is fundamentally cultural and historical. Then Scotty Beak 1989. Scotty Beak 1989 came in, and Scotty 80B 1989 came in, and he said, are you a traitor then? Canada, we have no allegiance to the United States. All Canadians, by definition, are traitors because every Canadian, to be a real Canadian, is to be anti-American. Because Canada, we beat the United States in the War of 1812. Like every patriotic Canadian who's a real Canadian, by definition, by default, would be anti-American. So you can't really call Canadians traitors because we're supposed to be against you. We beat you in a war. Canada beat the United States in the only war that Canada ever had the only country that Canada ever had a war with, is the United States. And we beat the United States in the War of 1812. So Canadians, we have no allegiance to America. Like Canadians, we have no allegiance to the United States. None whatsoever. In fact, I would say that Canada probably has more allegiance to China, in my opinion. Because, Canada and China, they're like this. Like they do all this economic stuff together. They trade. There's Chinese people everywhere. There's a Chinatown in every city across Canada. There's a Chinatown. There's a Chinatown in Vancouver. There's a Chinatown in Calgary. There's a Chinatown in Toronto. There's a Chinatown in whatever cities in Prince Edward Island. There's a Chinatown in Montreal. There's a Chinatown in every city in Canada. There's a Chinatown. Chinatown. Chinese people everywhere. So, no, Canadians, we have no allegiance to the United States of America. Especially when the United States of America, like Donald Trump, he was saying he wants to take over Canada. Listen, I'm not going to lie. The government of Canada, they're corrupt. And there's a lot of Canadians that would love to see the United States whoop ass with the Canadian government. Okay? But what I'm saying is that technically speaking, obviously there's a difference between Canada wanting to get rid of their bad government, because it's very possible that Canadians could be patriotic but still want to get rid of the horrible government, right? It's very possible that there could be patriotic Canadians that are patriotic and they don't want to have Canada taken over, but at the same time they realize that they got to get rid of the Canadian government, which is horrible. And there's a difference between full-on Canadians that just want the United States to just take over Canada, erase the Canadian flag, erase the Canadian culture, just remove there's a big difference there. So no, Canadians by definition are not supposed to be allegiant to the United States. We do not swear to the national anthem. Every day in Canada, when we sing the national anthem, we don't sing the American national anthem. We don't pledge allegiance to the flag. Canadians do not pledge allegiance to the flag. So how could we be traitors? We never pledge allegiance to the flag in the first place. We never agreed to defend the United States. Canada, by definition, to be Canadian, we don't sing the American national anthem. Every day we get up and sing the Canadian national anthem. We pledge allegiance to Canada and the interests of Canada. So if the interests of Canada is for Canada to be in partnership with China because China could whoop America's ass, then that's what Canada will do. So no, I'm not a traitor because we are not, by definition, expected to be loyal and allegiant to the United States of America. We don't even pledge allegiance to the flag. Okay, we don't sing the American national anthem. We're not taught that we're American. We're taught that we're Canadian. There's a big difference. So. In fact, right now, I swear to God, I swear, right now, if you were in Canada and you burned the American flag, people would actually clap. People would support you, respect you if you burn the American flag. But if you did something like say, oh, you can't stand those Chinatown and you can't stand how many that the Chinese people took over Canada. Now, if you say that, they'll beat the crap out of you. I'm telling you the truth here. And I'm not saying that I defend communist China. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that this is how it is in Canada right now. If you walk down the street and you burn an American flag, no one will care. Now, obviously, if you burn the Canadian flag, people will be like, what's that guy doing? But if you burn the American flag in Canada, no one will care, honestly. In fact, they might even applaud you and start clapping. Now, if in Canada, if you go down the street and say, hey, Chinatown, stop playing the Chinese national anthem, stop playing Chinese music, stop speaking Chinese, this is Canada, you gotta speak English in Canada. If you did shit like that in Canada, they'd beat the crap out of you. Oh, yeah. Oh, especially if you burn the Chinese flag. Oh, so let's just look at straight comparison here. You walk down the streets of Canada, in Canada, you burn the American flag, no one will care. They will applaud you actually if you burn the American flag. You burn the Chinese flag, oh, they'll beat the crap out of you if you burn the Chinese flag. So that's what it's like in Canada, pretty much. There's Chinese messages. I was reading a message that got retracted. I said Chinese messages. There's Chinese people all over Canada. Like Canada is filled with Chinese people. There's Chinatowns in every city. There's a Chinatown in Vancouver. There's a Chinatown in Toronto. There's a Chinatown in Calgary. There's a Chinatown in Montreal. There's a Chinatown in every city across Canada. Saskatchewan, whatever. I don't know all the names of the cities, but there's a Chinatown everywhere. There's Chinese people everywhere. There's a Chinese restaurant. I'm eating Chinese food right now. No, I'm just joking. I'm not eating Chinese food right now, but there's a Chinese restaurant in everywhere. And Canada is full of Chinese people. So pretty much in Canada, like if you walk down the street and you burn the American flag, no one would care. They would actually applaud you. But if you like said something about that you don't like the fact that communist China took over Canada, then they would beat the crap out of you if you said something like that. So pretty much, insult Americans, A-okay. Insult China, go away. I don't know. You get my point. Yeah, Caroline, what I meant was that there's a Chinatown everywhere. It's like there's Chinatowns all over Canada. So what I'm saying is someone came in earlier and said, oh, if a Canadian doesn't support the United States, then they're a traitor. And what I was saying was no, because Canada, we do not pledge allegiance to the American flag. Canadians, every day, we do not sing the American national anthem. We do not pledge allegiance to the American flag. We sing the Canadian national anthem. We pledge allegiance to the Canadian flag. Canadians, we do not sing the American national anthem. We do not pledge allegiance to the flag. So Canadians have no expectation to be loyal to the United States. In fact, Canada, the only country that Canada has ever had a war with is the United States. In the War of 1812, Canada beat the United States in the War of 1812. Now, Canada has never had a war with China. Never. Canada has never had a war with China, but Canada, we actually had a war with the United States. We beat the United States in the War of 1812. And Canadians, we do not sing the American national anthem. We do not pledge allegiance to the flag. There is no expectations for Canadians to be loyal to America. Especially too, you'd be like, hey, Canadian, who every day of his life speaks Canadian, sings Canadian songs, waves the Canadian national flag. You gotta try to tell that Canadian you gotta be loyal to the United States to be like, who? They might even be like, who the hell is that? Who's the United States? Like, we don't wake up every day like smelling the American air and breathing in the American air. We don't do that. Like, we are every day, we are Canada. We are Canadian national anthem, Canadian news, Canadian this. So we have no expectation to be allegiant to the United States of America. In fact, there's probably Canadian spies all across the United States right now spying on America for China. So no, I don't know who comes in here and says, oh, you Canadians are expected to be loyal to the United States. No, we're not. They never taught us that in school. We never pledged allegiance to the American flag in school. We never sang the American national anthem. In Canadian school, we sing the Canadian national anthem. We have never sung the American national anthem in school, in Canadian school. In Canadian school, we have never, ever sung the American national anthem. We have never pledged allegiance to the American flag. So how could we be expected to be loyal to America when we've never even pledged allegiance to the American flag? So we've never been taught ever that. Never. We've never been taught to be loyal to the Americans. Never. Canadians have never, ever in school, anywhere, been told or been taught, you need to be loyal to the United States. Never. So how could we be traitors when we weren't expected to be loyal to the United States to begin with? That's like calling Russians traitor. That's like saying, hey, Russians, if you don't support the United States, you're traitors to America. Yeah, every Russian is Russian. Russians are not expected to be loyal to the United States either. Russians, Chinese, Japanese, Germans, Californians, none of those groups of people are expected to be loyal to the United States of America. Okay, the Californians one was a joke, but you got to admit that California is like, it's almost like its own country at this point. But anyways, that you get what my point is. Germans, Russians, Australians, Canadians, we are all Australian, we're Canadian, we're Russian, we're German. We are not American. We have no loyalty to the United States of America. None whatsoever. In fact, if a Canadian literally did espionage against America, if a Canadian betrayed the United States tomorrow, that Canadian would be given a medal. Well, not in the United States. The United States would hang that Canadian. But I'm saying in Canada, the Canadian in Canada would be given a medal if he betrayed America tomorrow. Because Canada, we are expected to do what's best for Canada. Canadians are expected to do what's ever best for Canada, not the United States. Who came in and said Canadian is not a language? A boot? What are you talking about, sir? Eh? You trying to call me? You're trying to say I'm not a real Canadian, eh? What are you talking about? What's this all about? You forgot the U in color. You know color, the word color. So in American English, the word color is spelled Color, color. In Canadian English, it's spelled with a U, color. So you wouldn't be surprised how many times I spelled color correctly, and Americans try to tell me I spelled color wrong. Listen, Americans, we all know that you know about colors. Americans know about colored people and colors. We all know that. But listen, Americans, when you're in Canada, when you spell color in Canada, it's spelled with a U. Colour, not COLOR. So there you go. They try to say, oh, Canadian, we don't have our own like language. Yeah, we do. We spell things differently. In fact, I recently found out that in America, they don't have things called washrooms. They don't know what a washroom is. They only have the word bathroom. They call it a bathroom. Bathroom. Well, in Canada, we also call it a washroom. We have both. We could say bathroom or we could say washroom. In fact, many Canadian doors and many Canadian buildings, they say washroom. They don't even say bathroom. They'll say washroom. This is the washroom. You go to a Canadian building, you say, hey, where's the washroom? They'd be like, the washroom is over there. Okay? So we can say washroom or bathroom. We have both. But in America, I was talking to Americans and I started to say something about that. We were having a discussion about the washrooms not being clean or something, right? It was something to do with a discussion about cleanliness, about washrooms. So I suddenly said, yeah, the washrooms in Canada are not clean either. And she turns around and she says, what's a washroom? I said, what's a washroom? I said, honey, you've never used the washroom before? Honey, you better use the washroom because you must stink if you've never used the wash. She's like, no, like, what's a washroom? What are you talking about, washroom? She's American. She had no idea what a washroom was. So then finally I figured it out and I had to Google this. I had to Google like why Americans don't know what a washroom is. And sure enough, in America, they only say bathroom. They don't say washroom. So that's why she had no idea what I was talking about when I said washroom. So there you go. Canadians, we have our own language pretty much. And especially the British people. Have you ever listened to the British people talk? Oh, my cucumber sandwich, my cucumber sandwich. Like even the British people, they got their own stuff going on. The Australians, try listening to the Australians. Crikey, mate. Oh, I reckon that even the Australians got their own language too. So none of us are expected to be loyal to the United States of America. We're Canadian, we're expected to be loyal to Canada. This is the only country that Canadians are expected to be loyal to, is Canada. That's it. Canadians are not expected to be loyal to Germany anymore. Canadians are not expected to be loyal to France, because we just don't like them. Canadians are not expected to be loyal to Russia. I wish Canadians were expected to be loyal to Russia. Canadians will not talk bad about China. China's great. I love China. But especially Canadians, are not expected to be loyal to the United States of America. Not whatsoever. And this guy came in, Mike. Mike came in and he said, here publicly in America, it doesn't say bathroom, it says restroom. See, it doesn't even say bathroom. It's not okay, you don't rest in the bathroom, do you? It's not like a room where you sit down on the couch and watch TV. Why would you call a bathroom a restroom? Okay, you could see washroom because you wash your hands, right? You go to the Canadian washroom to wash your hands. Hey, I need to wash my hands. I'm a Canadian with manners. Hello, I am a clean Canadian with manners who would like to wash his hands before eating dinner, where is the washroom? The washroom is over there where you could wash your hands. We're not going to rest in the washroom. There's no couches in the washroom where you could sit down and watch television. Why would you call it a restroom? Like, I know I've heard the term restroom before. I'm not saying I never heard the restroom. I know I've heard people call it a restroom, but I'm just saying, look at the logic here with this. Why call it a restroom? You're not resting in the restroom, in the bathroom. In the bathroom, you're doing bath stuff or you're doing wash stuff. You're washing, especially women. They gotta, but you got to admit that women especially love to go to the bathroom. Women spend lots of time in the bathroom. Women don't just wake up looking beautiful. Women, it takes like them 4 hours in the bathroom to look beautiful, women. So that's what I'm saying. Like, why call it a restroom? You're not like in there resting. You're not sleeping. And you think of a restroom, you think someplace where you sleep, right? Rest. Are you going to have some rest? No wonder all of these people who study English, they hate us because they hate the English language. Hey, would you like to go to the restroom? Like imagine a person learning English and they hear the word restroom and then they think, oh, well, rest means sleep, right? If someone's going to go have a rest, they're going to sleep. So the restroom must be a place where they sleep. And then someone learning English realizes that a restroom is actually a bathroom. No wonder all these people who learn English, they can't stand the English language. They're like, why am I learning this stupid language? So anyways, it makes more sense to call it a washroom because in the washroom, you wash your hands, right? Canadians, we wash our hands. Americans, apparently, they rest in the bathroom. They sleep or something in the bathroom, apparently. And also, by the way, Canadians, we're clean people. We don't have bed bugs and all of these little critters that you Americans have. I swear, when I went to the United States, I was like, what the hell is crawling all over me, right? What's touching me right now? And then I realized that it was just couple people in New York. But then I realized, when I slept in a hotel, then I was in a hotel and I'm like, who's touching me? This isn't the subway. I'm not in a New York subway right now. What's touching me right now? You get in a subway in New York, you try to ride the metro in New York, and like you get in one of those subway cars and everyone's touching you because it's like they cram like 100 people into one subway car. So everyone's touching you there. But then when you're in a New York hotel room, like when you're staying at the New York hotel room and you're in the bed and you're like, what's touching me? And then you realize that America has all of these creepy bed bugs. Canada, we don't got that in Canada. Like everything is sterilized. Canada is like everything is sterilized and washed. We double wash, we triple wash. Okay. In America, you got bed bugs. You got you want to talk about people who invaded America? That's who invaded America. Bed bugs. You're worried about all of these Mexicans and you're worried about all of these Russians and these Canadians every so often that go to New York to do some spying on America. You always worry about all these people, but then meanwhile, you got this army of bed bugs that are eating you alive while you sleep. Every day, every night that Americans go to sleep, they're being eaten by bed bugs. Eaten every night. That's who you need to worry about, the bed bugs. They're the ones who took over America. And bed bugs, they spread disease too. You think mosquitoes are bad? Sure, the mosquitoes, yeah, but they were weaponized, by the way. The mosquitoes took out half of Africa. But I'll tell you, bed bugs, they bring disease too. They spread the disease. And I swear to God, I don't care if anyone calls me crazy, I swear to God. One time, I was staying in a hotel room in the United States, and after the bed bug bit me, I swear to God, he had a look on his face. Like the bed bug was smiling. I swear to God. After the bed bug bit me, I saw him or her, and it was smiling at me after it bit me, the bed bug. I swear. Those things are friggin' vicious. Interestingly enough about mosquitoes, apparently, so I like to read the Russian websites every day. Listen, just because someone studied the Russian language for years, just because someone went to Russia, just because someone works for the Kremlin, just because someone is loyal to Putin and has a picture of Putin in his wall, has a poster of Putin, just because someone has all that stuff doesn't mean that they're some Russian spy, whatever. So anyways, I do have a poster of Putin, but anyways. So I speak fluent Russian, and the Russians have websites where they spread propaganda about Americans. So I love to read the Russian websites where they spread propaganda about Americans. Not like Americans are fat, Americans are racist, Americans are this, Americans are that. We know that already. Okay. No, so the Russians have a website where they actually tell intel about Americans. So apparently, according to one of the latest accusations about the United States of America, the United States of America has these drones, special drones that have mosquitoes in them. It basically, what they do is they take mosquitoes and they weaponize the mosquitoes. They put viruses in the mosquitoes. They take infected mosquitoes, because of course everyone knows that mosquitoes, they're like one of the number one animals that can spread disease. The mosquitoes can spread disease like within seconds, right? Mosquitoes. So apparently the Russians, Russia has accused the Americans of having drones filled with infected mosquitoes that can wipe out parts of Africa. Because Africa, of course, Africa, they are very susceptible to disease and mosquitoes. The Africans, they got mosquitoes everywhere. They're very susceptible to mosquitoes and disease. So apparently the Russians accused on a website I was reading, and I read it in Russian. I read the whole thing in Russian. I can read Russian. I can read in Russian. The whole thing was in Russian, and they said that the Americans have these drones that they fill with mosquitoes on purpose, infected mosquitoes, where they purposely practice biological warfare on Africa, trying to wipe out the Africans, okay? Africa, this small little continent, this tiny little condiment, whatever. This tiny little continent called Africa, and the Americans are picking on Africa, If the Africans don't have Africa, where are they going to go? Back to America? So America, you need to leave the Africa alone, America. America, you have to leave that small little continent known as Africa alone. Stop picking on the Africans. Stop trying to wipe out the Africans with your drones filled with infected mosquitoes. The Africans are probably immune anyways. Imagine if Africans tried to do that back to Americans. Imagine if there were a bunch of pissed off Africans that went to the United States, got jobs at McDonald's and spit in Americans' food. Imagine. So Americans, you need to stop attacking Africa. You need to stop making these special drones with infected mosquitoes and spraying them on Africans, trying to wipe out the African population. Americans, you need to stop doing that. Did you see Putin with the African guy, the African president? Did you see that? There's something going on there. And I'm not just some homosexual that tries to say that two guys can't be friends without being gay. No, I'm not like that, one of those homosexuals. But if you do look at Putin and you do look at the way he was looking at the African president, I swear to God, there's like something going on there. either espionage, either deception, maybe Putin's trying to deceive the Africans, whatever, or like there's legit some homosexuality going on there. But something's going on between Putin and the, just watch the video with Putin and the Africans. There's even a video where Putin was going in to meet with the Africans, and the Africans wouldn't let Putin's security guards in there. Did you remember that video? I was shocked. I was like, the Russians are just going to let Putin go into a meeting without his security? What? Couldn't even believe it. Why would Putin feel so comfortable that he would go into a meeting with the Africans without security? Something's going on there, right? Like something's going on with Putin in Africa. So Putin likes the BBC. Putin likes something about Africa because he goes there apparently sometimes without security. No, like he was with security, but then what happened was the African security was stopping the Russian security from moving forward. And then the next thing you know, you see Putin go into another area without his security. It was bizarre, very bizarre. I do not blame the Africans for moving to America. The Africans have to live in this tiny continent. Why can't I say continent? Anyways, the Africans have to live in this tiny continent called Africa. I don't blame the Africans for moving to the United States at all. If you were African and you lived in this tiny place in Africa where everyone was poor, they had no money, they were all poor, the Africans would probably be like, one day they have a dream. This is the I have a dream speech, right? One day I have a dream that instead of Africans being poor and dying of disease, that one day Africans will be rich and Americans will be dying and poor, okay? That's the African dream right there. So I don't blame the Africans for being jealous about Americans, wanting their wealth, wanting their power. And I don't blame the Africans going to the United States. I really don't. When the Africans, they gotta live in these small little countries in Africa and they're poor, they got no money, they got disease, they got wars constantly, they're killing each other every day. They're fighting over whether it's called a bathroom or a washroom. I don't blame the Africans then for wanting to go to the United States, to have the American dream, to steal the American dream. I don't blame them at all. If I were in Africa and I were poor and starving in Africa, and I looked at those like Americans and all their money, yeah, if I were African, I would want to go to the United States as well. So I don't blame the United States for the Africans. I don't blame the Africans for moving to Canada, taking over Canada, then sleeping through the Canadian border into the United States. I don't blame them. No, the Africans haven't taken over Canada yet, but anyways. But I don't blame them because, you know, it's sad because the Africans, it's true. It's like they're born into like poverty, the Africans. So, you know, the Africans have a dream. Instead of the Africans being poor and dying from disease and living in like a small continent known as Africa, instead of that, the Africans believe that one day the Africans will be rich, the Africans will be successful, the Africans will be healthy, and the Americans will be poor, and the Americans will be dying of disease. That's the African dream right there. That's the African dream. So, in fact, there are Canadian companies right now. There are all of these companies in Canada. They only hire Africans, apparently. They even say it right on the job advertisement. They literally say right on the job advertisement, they either say, only hire Indians. I swear to God, I swear. It even says only hire Indians. Like not even something like we only hire people who speak Punjabi or we only hire people who speak Hindi or speak Urdu, because that would be obvious like they're trying to only hire Indians, right? because there's not many white Canadians that can speak Urdu and can speak Hindi. But no, they flat out say on the job advertisements, we only hire Indian workers from India. Canadian companies, there are Canadian companies advertising for jobs that they only hire Indians, or they only hire Africans, or they only hire Chinese. I swear. It's like I show up to the job interview and they're like, this job is for people who speak fluent Mandarin. And you're like, and I'm like, da-da-da. I'm like, oh, I went to University of Toronto and I have an undergraduate degree in Chinese studies. And then I got a master's degree in Chinese literature. And then I have a doctor. I have a PhD in Chinese literature, or Chinese whatever, architecture, whatever. Chinese food. I have a PhD in Chinese food, whatever. Then they're like, and I'm like, I speak Chinese, so hire me. I'm a white Canadian, but I speak Chinese. You said on your job advertisement, you only hire people who can speak fluent Chinese. Well, I can speak fluent Chinese. I have an undergraduate degree from the University of Toronto. I have a master's degree from the University of British Columbia. I have a doctor's degree from Alberta. I have a doctor's degree from Alberta. I have a PhD in Chinese literature. I speak Chinese. Imagine the looks on all the Chinese people's faces when they look at me. They're like, but you speak a Chinese, but can you do a Kung Fu? Because if you really can speak a Chinese, can you also do a Kung Fu? And can you jump? Oh, everybody was Kung Fu. The Chinese people chop my head off, right? But that's what I'm saying. They only want to hire people who are Chinese. And they even say it right now. They literally say on advertisements, no, like, they don't say, no, okay, they don't say no white people, but they literally say on advertisements, they say, I swear, I can pull it up. I can pull up the job advertisements. I found them. I found the ones that said Indian, especially Indian only. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of ones that say Indian only. There's a lot of them. And there's also, by the way, there's also rooming places. If you try to rent a room in Canada, if you try to rent an apartment, there are lots of ads. There was even a CTV News, one of those, where the journalists try to expose things, right? There was even a CTV News special on it. There's a lot of rooming ads that are very racist, that literally say, we only rent to Indians. Literally says that. It says, must be Indian. In fact, one time, I swear to God, I called a place. This was like 10 years ago when I was looking for a place. 10 years ago, when in my 20s, when I was looking for a place, I called a place. They asked me for references. I had great references. They asked me for credit score. I had great credit score. They asked me for my job. I had a great job. I was working for the government of Canada. I had a great job. Asked me for all of this stuff. Then I said, okay, I want to rent this master bedroom. I was just renting a master bedroom, which it was pretty big, but it was expensive, right? I was renting, but I had a good job. I was working for the government of Canada. So I had a good job. I had a car. I had everything. I was reliable. I always paid my rent on time. I had good credit. Many years ago, I had great credit. And then they say to me, oh, well, you're going to be sharing the master bedroom with like 2 other people. I'm like, what? Then they're like, well, didn't you read the ad closely? It's only for Indians. What? I'm like, I don't feel comfortable sharing a bed with 2 guys. Sorry. Well, not 2 Indian guys. Sorry. No, I mean, I'm a working professional. I am a working professional, and I am looking for a bedroom just to sleep in, not with guys. Because I never do that. Well, not with Indian guys. Listen, I just want a master bedroom for myself, okay? I'm just looking for one master bedroom for myself because I got a lot of stuff, okay? I don't wake up looking like this. I have to spend 6 hours in the bathroom to look so like preppy and, I work for the government of Canada. I have all of these suits and ties. I got my ironing board. I got all these suits and ties. Okay, I got like these hair products. I got hair gel. I got a whole suitcase just full of hair gel. Okay, I work for the government of Canada. And I just want a master bedroom for myself. Okay, no Indian. I'm not going to share a master bedroom with 2 Indians. Okay, no, sorry. Like, I'm not gay like that. Like, no, I am gay, but I'm not going to share. Listen, can we start over? Like, sorry. Then they told me, they said no. They said not only was I white, but I'm also maybe possibly gay. They're not gonna rent to me. I can't share a master bedroom with two Indian guys. Then I'm like, look, okay, I'd be willing to look at pictures of the Indian guys, but only if they're thin, only if they're very thin and tall and muscular, then maybe I will consider sharing a bedroom, a master bedroom with two Indian guys. Only if I can see pictures of them. So yada yada yada, they punched me in the face, and then no, they didn't punch me in the face. And actually, I wasn't trying to rent a master bedroom. That was a joke. But I was trying to rent a bedroom, and it said I had to share it with two Indian guys. So that was real. That was true. Actually, that was true. The part where that was true, and I did work for the government of Canada. That was true as well. And I did have a suitcase full of hair gel. I have a lot of hair gel. I used to, not anymore. I used to put so much gel in my hair. I used to constantly gel my hair. So anyways, that was true. But it wasn't actually a master bedroom. The bedroom was big, but it wasn't a master. Like, it wasn't like as big as a master bedroom. It was a big bedroom, but not like a master. A master bedroom technically is a certain, whatever. So it wasn't technically a master bedroom. So, they wanted me to share a bedroom with two Indian guys. But they said to me, we won't, but they said you have to be Indian. You know? So when they actually saw me in person, right? Because this was back then. This was years ago when they looked at your resume, they looked at your references, you applied. So they have these websites, right? They have these websites where you can type in all the information and then apply. But then when I finally got a phone call, she said, "Oh, you're not Indian." I said, "No, I'm not Indian. I'm Canadian. I'm a Canadian looking to rent a bedroom in Canada." Hello, I am a Canadian looking to rent a bedroom, to rent a room in Canada. I am a Canadian. I have a good job. I work for the government of Canada. I have references. I pay my rent on time. She's like, "Oh, but you're not Indian." I said, "No, I'm not Indian. I'm Canadian trying to rent a room in Canada. I am a Canadian living in Canada trying to rent a room in Canada. Can a Canadian not rent a room in Canada?" She's like, "No, we only rent to Indians." I'm like, "Okay." And she said, "And you'd have to be sharing a room with two guys." I'm like, she's like, "Could you share a room with two guys?" I'm like, "You think I could share a room with two guys?" "Yes, of course I could share a room with two guys." But not if the room's gonna smell like curry and they're gonna be playing it. Anyways, I don't like curry. I don't like spicy food. I can't handle spicy food. Okay, I cannot handle spicy food. Okay, so, and I can't handle like when you go to China and they eat everything that moves. You remember that YouTube video where she was eating an octopus and it was live? Or squid or something? Squid or octopus? It jumped on her face. There's a famous YouTube video. It went viral. It got millions of views. It's from China. And the girl, she was about to go eat a live octopus. Like the thing was still living, the octopus. And it jumped on her face. The octopus was not going to go down without a fight. It jumped on her face. She was trying to eat it. Like, they'll eat everything in China. Like, they'll eat me probably in China. Like, in China, they'll eat everything. So, Mac, if they're eating like octopuses with like those 8 tentacles, if they're willing to eat that, oh man, then they eat dogs in China, they eat cats in China. Oh my God, they eat these octopuses. I could never eat an octopus. Anything with 8 tentacles, 8 legs, that thing could smack you 8 times. Like smack, 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 smack. I can't handle spicy food, Julian. Julian Fry came in and said, what is wrong with curry? Because I can't handle spicy food. Curry is too spicy. Okay? One time I ate curry. It was so spicy, like my whole face went red. I can't handle spicy food. I felt like I had to drink like gallons of water. Then I was peeing the next day. Then I'm at work the next day. They're like, why did you go to the bathroom 4 times in like an hour? I'm like, because last night I ate curry. It's not what you think, okay? It's not what you think. Last night I ate curry, and then I got really spicy food. I ate all this spicy food, and I drank all this water. I was drinking gallons of water because I had all this spicy food. And then the next day I was like I went to the bathroom 4 times in an hour. That's all. Actually, one time, oh my God, I was working in a Canadian government office. I was a Canadian government building, which is no longer there. They tore it down because, they were doing pretty, anyway. So they tore the building down. It's not there anymore. But I worked at this government building on a military base. I was working on a military base, and I was working in HR, human resources, because that's like I have like a business degree, right? So HR, marketing, business, right? So I was working in human resources, and I went to use the bathroom, and I was in a workplace where they had no men. It was like all women, pretty much. They had I was like one of 3 guys. There were like 2 other guys. There was like 1 guy downstairs. There was another guy in another department, like computers or something. Of course, there was a guy in computers, right? But in the whole building, you know how they say sausage fest? Well, this was the opposite of a sausage fest. This was the opposite of a sausage fest. This was the opposite. Instead of the whole building being full of guys and sausages everywhere, the whole building was full of women. Like women everywhere. People, they even called me a woman. The guys would even joke, the 2 other guys would joke and say that there was only 2 guys in the building because they called me a woman. So anyways, I cried about that. But anyways, so it's basically the whole building was full of women, okay? And one time I went to go use the bathroom because I had my own bathroom because I was on my floor, it was HR, and it was all women except for 1 guy. I think the HR department was scared that because they only hired women for years, they need to hire 1 guy. Because the HR department was scared they would get sued for discrimination because imagine an HR department being scared of being sued for discrimination because they only hire women. And it's true. Typically, when you look at the HR department, human resources is usually women. It's not a lot of men in human resources. So I was like their one token male guy, right? Which they even consider me to be a male, right? Because I'm homosexual. So I was the token guy in their whole female HR department. And the men's bathroom, because our HR had our own bathrooms, right? I had pretty much the bathroom to myself, the men's bathroom, right? So one time I went to go use the bathroom, but we did also have people coming to HR. So it's true that the bathroom was typically empty, the men's bathroom, because we don't have people every day there, right? But we do have people sometimes because there's men. There were military guys who would visit the HR, right? Human resources. We had military guys coming every so often. Sometimes the guys would get fired. And one time the guy did get fired, and believe me, once he got fired, you should see what he did to the men's bathroom. So one time a military guy got fired in HR. We were in HR, the guy got fired. I didn't fire him. I wasn't an HR manager. Listen, if I was an HR manager, I was an assistant. If I was an HR manager, I would be living in 2 mansions right now. If I was an HR manager, HR managers in Canada get paid a lot of money. That is a job that's a coveted job to be the manager of the HR. So no, I wasn't an HR manager. I was just an assistant. I was one of the assistants. But I didn't fire this guy. I had nothing to do with him being fired. Nothing. And then what happened was he got mad that he was fired. So he went and he didn't blow up the men's bathroom, but basically he had destroyed it. There was toilet paper everywhere. There was it would look gross, whatever. And then the janitor who knew me for months, right? The janitor who knew me for months, I had been working there for 7-8 months, and she knew me, and she knew I was a clean person. And then she comes in one day, and she went to the men's bathroom, and then she came right to the HR department, and she's like, I'm not gonna say my name on live stream because I can't say my private name, but anyways, she said to me, what happened in the men's bathroom? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I didn't use it today. I even used it today, I swear. I used my bathroom at home this morning. I didn't use the men's bathroom. She's like, well, the men's bathroom is a nightmare. And I'm like, well, so then we looked into it. And sure enough, the guy that was fired the day before had destroyed the men's bathroom. So he had been fired and he destroyed the men's bathroom. And then she came to me, the only guy in the HR department, because she knows that I pretty much was the only one who uses the bathroom. And she's like, what happened in the bathroom? I'm like, I don't know. Definitely not some gay stuff. I didn't do any gay stuff in the bathroom. Why are you accusing me? Why is every time a homosexual in a workplace, they're always accusing the guy of doing gay stuff in the bathroom? I did not do any gay stuff. And she's like, no. The bathroom, there was like toilet paper everywhere and it was all dirty. Well, I'm like, I definitely didn't do that. I'm like one of the cleanest, people. I don't do that. I definitely didn't do that. And then sure enough, the military guy that had been fired had went in and he was pissed off and he completely destroyed the bathroom after he was fired. So anyways, the moral of the story is don't fire military guys. And if you do fire them, fire them when they're at home or something. Maybe do a YouTube call. Hey, we're going to have you work from home today. We're going to have you work. Actually, that's a great way to fire people. Yeah, you know what? Well, I'm sorry. I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not Mr. Donald Trump. You're fired. You're fired. I'm not Mr. Donald Trump that gets off on firing people. But listen, if you are going to fire someone and you want to fire someone, well, if you do it through a Zoom call when they're at home, heck, hey, we're going to need you to work from home today. Can you log into the computer and work from home? Sure. I get to work from home today? That's amazing. I always wanted to work from home. I'm so excited to work from home. Here's your login. Here's your Zoom call meeting. We're going to have a Zoom call meeting. You're going to work from home today. Hey, how do you like working from home? Great. I love it. I'm at home, in my home. I'm not at the workplace, so you don't have to worry about if you fired me if I went crazy. I'm at home. Everything's great. I'm at home. They're like, great. You're at home. You love working at home. You're fired. Then the person, when they're fired at home, they can't destroy the workplace, right? If the person's bitter and wants revenge on the workplace for being fired, he can't destroy the workplace because he's at home when they fire him. So, anyways, no, I'm not trying to give tips. I'm not trying to give tips to horrible HR managers like Mr. Donald Trump who loves to fire people. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. No, I'm not trying to give tips to people. But that if you start firing people through Zoom calls, there'll probably be less terrorist events. There'll probably be less workplace meltdowns. So that might be a good thing, especially with the Karens, actually. With the Karens. Did you see that video with the Polish lady? That was crazy. She was trying to attack that couple, that Palestinian couple. Did you see that? I'm so glad that the internet made more outrage over that than 9/11. Did you see that video of that Polish lady, an elderly Polish lady, not just a Polish lady in her 30s or 40s, but an elderly an old Polish woman. Did you see that YouTube video of the old Polish woman? She was at Panera Bread. And first off, anyone going to Panera Bread, that's your first mistake, is going to Panera Bread. You go to Panera Bread is your first mistake. There was a Polish woman. She was at Panera Bread. She started attacking this Middle Eastern couple, this Palestinian couple. Did you see that? That was crazy. And of course, the police, when there's a school shooting, the police are understaffed, right? When there's a school shooting, it takes the police 3 hours. But when there's an old Polish woman, an old elderly Polish woman who throws a fit at Panera Bread, and there's no injuries, of course, the Palestinian couple, they need to go to the hospital. There's no injuries. When an old Polish woman throws her shit, goes berserk at a Panera Bread, you better believe they will send 20 police cars right away. You're wondering why the police took 3 hours to go to the school shooting? You know why? Because the police were busy at Panera Bread dealing with a Polish woman, an elderly Polish woman who went crazy and threw a drink. That's why. The police clearly have priorities. The police had priorities, and thank God that those noble, hardworking police officers went right away to the Polish woman's house, and they arrested her. And they said, you cannot be an elderly Polish woman in America who gets mad at a Middle Eastern couple that might have well been terrorists and might have well have been behind 9/11. You Polish woman in America, you elderly Polish woman in America, how dare you get mad at a Panera Bread and throw your drink? How dare you? There was almost an injury. Okay, the woman almost got drink splash. It's a very common injury in Panera Bread, drink splash. You almost caused an injury to this Palestinian couple from the Middle East who's homophobic, and you know what they do to gay people in the Middle East. Miss old Polish woman from Poland who's in America, how dare you go to a Panera Bread and get upset and then throw your drink at someone? How dare you? Do you think this is a soap opera? You think this was one of those 1990s soap operas that you could just throw a drink at someone? You could just throw a drink in someone's face? You think this is a soap opera, elderly Polish woman? And they took that Polish woman down. 20 police cars took that Polish woman down. And that's why the police were too busy to go to school shooting. That's why. Because the police had bigger priorities. The police had to go after that elderly Polish woman who screamed at a Middle Eastern couple from some Middle Eastern country that may or may not have been responsible for 9/11. That's why the police. Anyways. So, of course, I was referencing the Uvalde school shooting. Remember that happened, and then the parents were complaining that the police did virtually nothing. The parents had to run into the building themselves to get their kids. Isn't that sad? These parents from Uvalde and Texas, whatever, these parents, I'm not sure where Uvalde is. Is it in New Texas? But I know Uvalde there was a famous school shooting. It was a big controversy. It was all over the news for months. The Uvalde school shooting, and the police apparently did nothing. The police did nothing for hours. It took police hours to do something. And the parents, there's videos of the parents in Uvalde having to be their own police and run into the school themselves to save their children themselves. Imagine you're in Uvalde and you pay all of these tax dollars. You pay all of these tax dollars in Uvalde for this police. You're like, why are we paying such high taxes in Uvalde? Well, because you have a police that in case there's a school shooting, they will protect you. If there's a school shooting, that's why you pay such high taxes. That's why you pay such high taxes in Uvalde, is so that those police, if there's ever a school shooting, and sure enough, there was a school shooting at the Uvalde, and then the police did virtually nothing. So what were those what were the Uvalde people spending all their tax dollars for? What was the purpose of Uvalde having these high taxes when they actually need the police for something? The police are like shocked that they actually have to do something. The police are like busy, they're eating donuts, they're playing poker, they're watching websites, if you know what I mean. The police guys, the police officers, they're busy playing poker, eating donuts, watching special websites. The police, they're very busy, and then suddenly they get a call and they're in shock. Oh my God, the police have to do something? Not only that, about a school shooting, they have to go to a school shooting and do something? Oh my God, the police were in shock. Can't they just go to Panera Bread and arrest the Polish lady, an elderly Polish lady? Why do they have to? Anyways. Yes, someone came in and said, add COVID to the list. Exactly. What do you think COVID was? And why do you think all of those guys during COVID, Justin Trudeau wearing the mask, they would taser people if they weren't wearing the mask? Like if there's a school shooting in Uvalde, the police are like, where are the police? But then in Canada, if there's someone walking down the street and they're not wearing a mask during COVID, oh, they send like 20 police cars, they taser the person. The police they were literally tasing old people. They were literally old people who refused to wear the mask. There were these elderly people that refused to wear the mask in Canada, and the police came and tasered them because they refused to wear the mask in public. So the Canadian police, they were tasering elderly people. They were tasering old people. It's really sad. So yeah, COVID definitely was another. I don't believe that that was innocent. I believe COVID was a biological attack on the United States. COVID was such a biological attack. And then now, when people try to go into places with wearing the mask, I love wearing the mask. I love wearing the mask. I didn't listen. I didn't like wearing the mask because I like the government. In fact, I hate the government. That's why I was wearing. People be like, "Oh, why do you like wearing the mask? Is it because you love the government? Because you're gonna do everything the government says?" No, I'm wearing the mask because I hate the government. That's why I'm wearing the mask. People are so stupid. They're so quick to make assumptions. They're like, "Oh, you're wearing a COVID mask. Why do you like wearing the COVID mask? Oh, it's because you support the Canadian government and you do whatever the government tells you to do." No, I'm wearing a mask because I hate the government. That's why I'm wearing a mask. Anyway. Anyways, did we ever figure out what happened to California? Who set California on fire? Anyways, I didn't. Anyways, so no, Canada. We have all of these people in Canada, and they all love the government. They support the government. They do everything the Canadian government tells them to do. And then they were all wearing the mask, right? But I was trying to like blend in with them because I didn't want to get tasered. Like, how stupid could you be? Do you want to put a sign on your back that says "Taser me"? No, wear the mask. Like, I'm not trying to attract attention. I don't want the Canadian police to come after me again. Anyways, I don't want the Canadian police to come after me. So I'm not going to just like walk around when everyone's wearing a mask and not wear a mask. That just seems like stupid 101. That's just like asking to be tasered. That's like asking to be tasered. It's like, you might as well put a sign on your back that says "Taser me." Like, "Police, taser me, police. I'm refusing to wear the mask when everyone else is wearing the mask." No, of course I wore the mask. I was able to walk around incognito. And I was able to like go about my business and actually get stuff done, right? And not be harassed. Because I'm like that type of person that always likes to tell jokes about the police, that the police are stupid, the police are incompetent, the police are lazy, the police are rapists and corrupt. I'm always like one of those people that police, all they do is eat donuts, and then whenever there's a big school shooting like Uvalde, the police are nowhere to be found because the police are stupid and incompetent and racist. So I'm always the type of person making jokes about the police. So the Canadian police, they hate my guts, the Canadian police. They hate me because and they don't wear body cams. The Canadian police don't wear body cams. So all those people that got tasered, we don't even know half of the stories. I actually saw an elderly person got tasered at Shoppers. I was at Shoppers in Canada. Shoppers is like a convenience store, a drugstore. Anyways, not a drugstore, like Shoppers Drug Mart. It's for everything. They sell everything. It's like in America they got Myers, or what's the CVS? What's the American version of Shoppers Drug Mart? The American version. I think it's CVS or Kroger. Kroger. It's like a Kroger. So I was going to the Canadian version of Kroger in Canada called Shoppers Drug Mart. And there was an elderly guy. Well, I think he was like 60. Anyways, he was much older than me. So anyways, he was like 60, elderly. And elderly. Okay, he wasn't elderly. He was old, but like he was close to elderly. Anyways, he was about 60. I would say he was about 60. And he was in Shoppers, and the girl was like, "Oh, we're not going to serve you unless you wear a mask, sir. You need to go home, put a mask on, come back." And the guy's like, "No." The guy's like, "I drove all the way here. I'm not wearing this stupid mask. Just sell me what you have to. I have the money. Just sell me what you got to sell me, and I'll be out of your way." The girl's like, "No." She's like, "No, sir. No, sir. If you are not wearing a mask, then we do not have to serve you. We will not be serving anyone who doesn't wear a mask. I've never had power before in my life. I am a 20-something-year-old girl who loves getting off on having power over people. And because they won't trust me to run a nuclear power plant, because they will not trust a blonde Canadian bimbo to run a nuclear power plant, instead, I work at Shoppers Drug Mart, sir, as a cashier. And I will never serve anyone who doesn't wear the COVID mask. And then the guy's like, I'm not leaving until I buy what I need to buy, right? The guy needs to buy something, I don't know, something like, probably Tylenol. The guy probably needed to buy Tylenol because the girl was giving him, or Advil, because the girl was giving him a headache. The guy was probably trying to buy Advil or Tylenol. And he's like, I don't care. He's like, call the police. I don't care. He's like, this is illegal. You can't refuse service to me. I didn't do nothing wrong. I don't have to wear the mask. This is ridiculous. I'm not wearing that stupid mask. No. And the guy said, and then sure enough, she's like, okay, sir. You want to test me, sir? You want to test me? You want to test the blonde bimbo that works at Shoppers Drug Mart? How dare you? How dare you challenge the word of a blonde bimbo that works at Shoppers Drug Mart? You want me to see? You want me to dial? I'll dial 911? You want me to dial 911? Okay, she wasn't Chinese. She wasn't Asian or Chinese. But anyways, she's like, you want to test me, sir? You want to test me? I will call them. I will call the police. And sure enough, I was like, okay, I'm getting the F out of here. I'm getting the F out of here because I don't want to get tasered. I don't want to be here when the police come. So I left. But then I realized that I kind of want to see what happens. So I went across the street. I went across the street where I was far enough from the police and safe enough from the police. I went across the street and I watched. I watched the Shoppers Drug Mart from across the street. Police cars came up. They went into the Shoppers Drug Mart. They grabbed the guy because he wasn't wearing a mask. They tasered him, put him in a Canadian police car, and then drove off. And I was like, oh my God. Thank God that I wasn't there buying my Cheetos, because I love Cheetos, right? Imagine me just like eating Cheetos with like Cheetos all over my face, like watching the cops beat up and taser this guy. And then the guy turns to me and he's like, aren't you going to do something? Aren't you going to help me? I'm being tasered by these Nazi cops, these Nazi Canadian cops. And I just got Cheetos all over my face, eating Cheetos. It would make a great Cheetos commercial. Maybe not. Maybe it would make a great Cheetos commercial. But anyways, that's why I couldn't help the guy. I couldn't help the guy because I'm afraid of the police too. I'm not going to get killed. I'm not going to get shot or get tasered by the Canadian Nazi police. No. So I went across the street. And I was eating my Cheetos. Like, no, I wasn't eating Cheetos. I love Cheetos, man. I was across the street, and I was in the place across the street watching the whole thing go down. And I saw this Canadian guy get tasered and attacked just for not wearing the COVID mask. Really scary.